I'm going to start off here and we're going to be talking about how to organize in your community. So if you have ever thought, wow, someone should really do something where I live to like make a difference, that is you. And we are going to talk to you about how you can do that, how to get started. It's kind of very basic organizing. And then we're going to kick it over to Renee and Betsy because they are doing this work and we want you to hear their on the ground experiences, hear what they're doing, hear what they've accomplished. And then I'm going to turn it over to Missy and she is going to share with you our Trouble Nation program, which is basically how we help you do this. Because we are not just going to send you off into the wild by yourself. We are here to help support you get this done. Local organizing makes a tremendous difference. I actually have been doing this in my own community for a while, and I cannot believe the things that we have been able to accomplish in I think we've been doing this for 5 or 6 years now. We have made some really major changes where I live. Local organizing absolutely works. We started our group, and I live in a pretty conservative red, maybe turning purple city north of Cincinnati. The elected officials were all rather conservative. They were not used to being challenged. And they definitely felt the impact when we suddenly started showing up at school board and city council meetings. In fact, if you've been with Red, White, and Blue long enough, we call everybody troublemakers. They literally called us that on the record, which is how the name became part of Red, White, and Blue vernacular. But you can definitely have an impact by doing this work, by getting together with other people in your community and organizing. So we focus a lot on local and state issues because honestly, your state government and your local government have a much bigger impact on your day-to-day life, on your family, than they do at the federal level. We always hear about Congress and the president, but honestly, it's the local and state people who have the biggest impact. And you can actually influence around that. Local and state races are often won by very, very small numbers. I have heard of small, it was like 1 vote has flipped a school board before. So by talking to friends and family, by informing them of candidates on the ballot or getting people to run who are common sense, good people, you can actually make a huge difference by organizing in your local community around this. And you can influence getting together with other people. You can influence your neighbors and friends who may not otherwise be turning out to vote for these candidates or don't know who these people are who are on the ballot. By getting together, organizing, and getting the resources out to your friends, you can actually make that huge impact. And if you grow your group locally, you actually are going to actually grow your influence at the state and federal levels because number one, state legislators don't get a lot of phone calls, right? It's not like Congress where they're getting phone calls and emails all the time. State legislatures don't get that many. So if you suddenly have your local group sending a bunch of emails or making a bunch of calls to the state legislator, that's going to get their attention. It actually helps you with Congress too, right? Because they get a lot of calls every day, but if you're a congressman representing a district and suddenly 100 people from your one city in your district are all calling on something, that's going to get flagged by your team. So this helps you to build your power. And once you get organized, you can take action really quickly. So if the legislature is trying to pass a really bad bill, I live in Ohio, they try to pass a lot of really awful stuff and they try to do it quickly and they try to hide it sometimes. But if you're paying attention, you can mobilize people really quickly to make those phone calls, send those emails, or even show up at the state house. And it's easier to get people rallied up and doing this work when everybody has formed relationships and you're all friends and you've been doing this work together for a long time. And also building relationships at the local level doing this work is really life-changing. I have multiple friends now that I met through doing organizing who I had never known before this, never would have met them. And I call them some of my best friends now. We have each other's back. We're a little supportive sisterhood. So many benefits and bonuses to doing organizing. So we're going to talk about how to get started. And there are 4 things we're going to cover. Number 1 is the planning you need to do to get going. And then how do you actually start doing this organizing? How do you get your group started? How do you build the momentum for it? And then how do you keep your members engaged once you have it started? So let's talk about the planning. So there are things to consider before you ever get started. So maybe you've made the choice of okay, I want to do this. I am going to set up a group in my local community. What's the purpose? What do you want the group to do? Is this going to be a group maybe focused on one particular issue that you care about? Or is your group just going to focus on school board issues or just your local issues? Do you want to do county issues? Do you want to do statewide issues? Like, what exactly do you think the purpose of the group is, and what are you going to focus on? It's important to do that so when people come in, they have a clear picture. Speaking of bringing people in, your membership. So who do you want to be part of this group? It's really important that you kind of set that parameter before you get started. Is this a group that is only for people who live in your city or your school district? Because if you really want to focus on your local elections, if you start letting people in from everywhere, it'll lose that focus and it will get very disjointed. Do you only want to let people of a certain political party in? Are you allowing independents in? Like, there's a lot of those different like things just to kind of think through. And you need to set those parameters, and then you need to enforce them, because I guarantee if you say, for example, my local group, we only allow people who live within our city to join. And I have people a lot reaching out saying, oh, my sister lives really close. Can she join? Or she lives, just 3 counties over. And we say no, because we don't want to lose the focus. I think we're successful because we are hyper-focused on our city council, on our school board, our state representative at our state legislature. So we don't want to blow that. So we set those parameters and we enforce them. Communication. So you're going to get this group together. How are you going to talk to them? And it doesn't have to be one way for everybody. So as much as we all probably love to hate Zuckerberg and Meta, because Facebook can be problematic, we also know that it's actually a really great place to organize. You can set up a Facebook group pretty easily. There's a very low barrier to entry for people. All they have to do is click a button to join. They don't have to come to an event. They don't have to sign up for anything. They click, they're joined, they're in. And then because it's a community, you can have conversations. So you can meet people, you start recognizing names, you can share information, you can share personal stories, you can share personal photos. So like, it does just kind of help to build your community. That being said, it is not the only place to organize. So just thinking through like, who are the people you're trying to attract and what's going to work best for them? If my 25-year-old was doing this, not a chance that they'd be on Facebook, right? Because they're not on Facebook. So you can use things like WhatsApp or Signal or Facebook Messenger or whatever you think is going to work. I had a group that was in a retirement community I talked to out in Nevada, and they just used email because none of their members really like social media. So they just used an email chain to do it. But what you really need to do is like, how do you want to do this? How do you want to communicate, and set that up ahead of time? Other things just to think through in terms of like naming. Maybe like, whatever, we'll just name whatever. But no, think about your name, because you want to have a little bit of fun with it too. Like, you want it to stand for what it is that you're organizing around. Make it have a fun vibe, something like that, just so people are enjoying it, or they kind of feel like, oh, this sounds like a fun kind of group. And we'll get more into that in just a second, but that is kind of the first few things to think through. So you are ready to go. I'm sorry, I'm going to circle back for 1 second on the naming thing. What I'm trying to say with that is that, if you maybe want to focus on reproductive rights, so maybe you want something in your name that's about that. Maybe you're focusing on education, so you want something in your name about that. But like, we also have really fun names for group. There's the Funky East Dallas Democrats. I think there's a group called Badass Women Get Shit Done. Like, so people will name their groups different things, and it definitely just has a different vibe. So decide what you want the vibe of your group to be. Now it's time to go. You've kind of thought this through. You're like, okay, I'm starting a group. We're going to focus on our local issues. I am letting anybody in who lives in my city. Anybody is welcome, as long as they share our values. So you are checking their social media before they get in. You may be checking their voting record. You got your people going. You've got your platform you're ready to use. What do you want to do? Well, then it's time to go. So you're going to launch your platform and you're going to start inviting people. So this can sound really daunting. You could be like, oh my gosh, I know 3 people. This is never going to happen. Not true. Start with the people you know, and I promise you it will grow. We started with about 12 people where I live. We have 800 people in the group now in a conservative area of Cincinnati. Our national Facebook group Sweep was started by a woman on a whim. She had 25 friends in a Facebook group. There are 220,000 women in there now. I have done this training, I don't know how many times, and I have never yet had somebody who started a group come back to me and say, I started a Facebook group and nobody joined. Never once heard that. Usually what I hear is, oh my God, hundreds of people joined. I couldn't believe it. So what happens is you start with the people you know, and then they are going to start inviting their friends, and then they're going to start inviting their friends. And so you might have some rapid growth, it might be slow, but you will definitely have that growth. And then you want to go out and look for potential people to invite as well. So if it's a public group and you're okay with that, share about it on social media. Or maybe what you want to do is start sharing just political content and see who likes or comments on your posts. So Red, White, and Blue creates a ton of content. So maybe if you share some of our stuff online, look for those people who are engaging with it. And if they fit your criteria, those are people you should be inviting in. You might be surprised at people that you didn't even know shared your beliefs and your values. Scouting for comments. Maybe you're on a friend's page and you see someone make a comment and you didn't know. Oh, wow. Okay. Maybe if you don't know them, you can DM them. Don't creep them out, obviously, but just saying like, I saw your post and I'm in this group. You might be interested. The other thing is like, look for groups in your area that already exist that might align with your values. So maybe there's like an environmentally friendly recycling group, or maybe there's like a liberal moms group or something of that nature. You can definitely join those groups and start inviting people over to participate with you as well. And then encourage your members, purposely ask them, please invite your friends, please go out and, help me look for people to invite to this group. The other thing that we love to suggest is that as much as it's like, let's say you choose Facebook as the place you're going to organize. As great as that can be, you are also controlled by the Facebook algorithm. And so everything you post will not show up in all of your members' feeds. I am an administrator of our group, and I don't even see everything that gets posted in our feed because Facebook decides what I see. So one of the best things to do is you want to find a way to connect with people offline. You don't want to just rely on the algorithm gods of social media. So what we do at Red, White, and Blue, and I do this in my local group as well, is we put a membership question in. So the questions, you have to agree to the rules, and I live in this area. One of the questions we use is just that, hey, Facebook's not going to show you everything cool that's happening. So if you want to keep in touch, share your email, phone number. And people do, like a lot of people do. And so we keep a spreadsheet of, contact information. And then when we're having an event or we're having a get together or something big is happening, we can post about it on Facebook, but we can also send that email or make that text message out to that group. So any way you can organize offline is great. Sometimes I even go into my local group and I have a Google form and I just say to them, hey, we'd love to get a hold of you offline. If you're not already on our list, fill it out here. And every time I do that, I get at least like 10 people who sign up for our email list that way. So invite your friends, use social media, encourage new membership, and find a way to connect with people offline. All right, so you've got everything done, you have launched, you are building momentum. So now it is time to actually get together because you want to keep this excitement going. So you're going to hold your first meeting, and it is important that you make it fun, right? We've all been to those meetings where you go to that cold room and sit in the hard chairs and people drone on and on and on. Don't want that. The reason we're Red, Wine, and Blue is because when Katie Paris, our founder, started going around the state of Ohio, meeting women who were organizing, they all had the same story. I got together with friends over a glass of wine and we were really worried about what was going on and we wanted to do something. The wine is a metaphor for the social aspect of you have to have some fun with this. And so that's why we're called Red, Wine, and Blue. But that's the whole point about setting the vibe and setting the mood. So, find a place. Can it be someone's house? Because that would be really great. Not everybody wants to open their house. Maybe you have to go to a library or a municipal center, or maybe there's a restaurant that has a room that you can get for free or for cheap. But just anything you can do to make it homey where people can have time and get to meet each other. Make it fun in the language of the vibe, do some fun gifts or memes in your invites or anything just to kind of set a fun tone. Encourage everyone to bring a friend because you want to grow this group. And people are more likely to show up and come if they're with someone they feel comfortable with. They're not going to walk into a room full of strangers, or they have that comfort person if they bring a friend. That also helps you. And then start with social time. Okay, because we don't want to just walk in, jump into a meeting. The whole point is you want to build relationships. You want friendships to build out of this. That's why people stay involved, okay? Because not only do they feel like they're accomplishing something, but because they're building those friendships that I talked about that I have built. So have that social time, give them a half hour time to chat, get to meet each other. And then when you do get started, make sure you have an agenda and follow the agenda, right? You want to have some planning here. If you have a meeting, and I have sat through many of these, where you have an agenda for an hour and you talk for 2 hours, people are never going to come back, right? Respect their time, follow the agenda, try to be concise and get going. If you have time, if the group's not too large, you can do some brief introductions or some kind of a fun icebreaker to get to know each other. It might have to be really short, like name in one word, because people can monologue and then your entire meeting is taken up by the icebreaker. Sometimes it's good to have a friend there to kind of model what you want happening. So if it's just say your name and the street you live on or something like that, have someone start that so that they're modeling that behavior. Um, and then what you can do at the meetings. So you can invite speakers, like maybe an elected official or someone who works in an issue area that you care about. So maybe if you're focusing on schools, you could ask a sitting school board member, or you just ask somebody who has like a teacher, or maybe a state legislator who works on education committee to come and talk. Ask your network for ideas. Ask the people who are in your group, like, what do they want to hear about? What do they want to learn about? People know people. Also, people who are in your membership probably have skills and things that they can even talk about that you don't even know. So have conversations, get to know people, and tap into those networks. The other thing is, like, you can just give people an overview of, like, we've forgotten a lot of civics. Like, how does government work? You could give an overview of, like, what's going on at your state house. What are some of the bills that are pending up there? And the one thing you want to do at the end is give people an easy call to action. You want them to walk away doing something, and it doesn't have to be hard. If this is a brand new group and a lot of people are new to this, it could just be like, here, watch this recording of this school board meeting where you can see that somebody tried to ban a book, or call your legislator and leave a message about this issue, or send them an email. Provide them some resources to read about a local issue. Like I said, you want to make this fun. You don't want to make it overwhelming, but you want to make them feel like they're doing something and they're taking action. Oh, this is what I was talking about when I went back to the naming and the vibe thing. So it is important that this kind of comes across as fun, right? So this is serious work, but people will burn out. So part of the social aspect and the fun part of it is to kind of have that fun vibe. So these are just some examples of social media posts from groups that I have seen that I really loved. The middle one is my group, actually, that I'm part of. But you see, like, the fun, cute memes, the David from Schitt's Creek, like all of those things that are eye-catching, and it just sets the tone that, like, oh, this actually looks like it's gonna be a fun thing to do. And then the last thing is just, how do you keep up engagement? So you've gotten started, you've had that first meeting, you've gotten people in the door and they're excited to do something. You have to keep that enthusiasm going. So number one, schedule your next meeting right away. So when people are leaving that first meeting, they know when the next one is, they can put it on their calendars, they can be prepared for it. And don't be afraid to have the next one be like a social fun event. It doesn't all have to be work all the time. So maybe you have a couple of meetings and then you just meet somewhere for a happy hour, or maybe you get together at someone's house on a patio for a backyard chat. Like, it does not have to be formal meetings every single time. Ask people what they want. Like I said, ask what kind of speakers they want. What kind of actions do they want to take? What are they really concerned about? And then the other thing is to delegate. Okay. So some of us are probably type A personalities. We kind of want to manage everything ourselves. That is not great, because number one, you're going to find that the people in your organization have skills. Someone's going to be a graphic designer. Someone's going to be really great at writing copy. Someone is going to know local media and they can, like, connect you with stuff. Find out those skill sets and then delegate and ask people to help. It sounds sometimes a little scary to ask people to do that. Nobody's ever been offended by being told, you'd be really great at doing this. They might say no, but they're not going to be offended by being asked. And the more people that you can get involved, then the more likely they are to stay involved. Because if you're actually doing something and you feel invested in what's happening, you are more likely to actually stay involved with that organization. So help plan the next meeting, help set up a social time. Hey, can you, like, check out what issues are going on at the State House? Can you check out this bill? Can you help me with social media content? And then if you do have those leaders that step up, and inevitably there will be a group of people who will step up to do leadership, create a separate channel where you guys can communicate. It's a fun group chat. It's a good way to get to know those people, and those people will then turn into friends. I promise. That's exactly how it worked for me. So that is my quick overview on Organizing 101 and how you would get started organizing in your community. I promise that you can do it. And I promise that because you are now going to hear from two women who are doing this.
Hi, ladies.
Hello.
Thanks for joining us this evening. So the first thing that I would like for you to do is to tell us a little bit about you and your group and why you started organizing. Betsy, we'll go ahead and start with you.
Sure. I got involved in this because I'm a high-risk OB, and the Dobbs decision came down and ruined my patients' lives. So talk about radicalizing someone, that was a moment. So I joined this Facebook group that was called Vote No Northeast Kansas, which was all about mobilizing people to speak out against the proposed constitutional amendment called Value Them Both, which valued neither. It was garbage. So I just started by joining that group, and it's just grassroots organizing. So that group had about 700 or 800 members in it. And I don't know how far you want me to go with the whole origin story. What do you want to go to, Renee, or you want me to tell more?
We can go to Renee if you want to, and then we'll circle back.
Okay.
I want to hear your story, Betsy. So I did not set out to become an organizer. It happened completely by accident. I had a friend who was on what was called the Board Advisory Council, which each of our school board members meets 3 or 4 times a year with the principals of each of the schools in their district, plus a parent representative. And the deal was, if you wanted to be the back rep, you had to, and you couldn't make a meeting, you had to send somebody in your stead. So I was there by accident, listening to my board member, and he talked about a provision that had been slipped into the budget. Now, this was way back in 2017. This had been in the 2016 budget that would have eliminated the ability for schools to hire art, music, and PE teachers. It would have just eliminated those in the elementary schools. And at the time, the legislators had said, oh, whoops, we didn't mean to do that. And our House had passed unanimously a bill to fix it. But it was sitting in the Senate, and I was extremely naive. And I thought, oh, then no problem. We just need to ask our senators to get that bill out of the Rules Committee and up for a vote. Done. Simple. And so I took it to my PTA, and we had a meeting, and people started writing. And it soon became very apparent that A, it was not a mistake, and B, that it was not going to be a simple fix. And that's kind of how I got started. We did win. It took over a year of hard work, but we won.
Yay! Similarly, Vote No Northeast Kansas. We put yard signs out. We held rallies. We stood at county fairs and talked to Joe Farmer and Joella Homemaker walking down the sidewalk. We wrote letters to newspapers. We were very, very galvanized to make sure that this went the way we wanted it to. And then we won and shocked the entire nation. August 2nd, we just had our big 2-year anniversary. It was, in fact, our second in-person event for our Trouble Nation group. And then we kind of sat on our laurels a little bit, like you do. So my co-leader is Ginny. Ginny was instrumental in the Piper Key 3, which is Piper's little town she lives in, and that's their school district. And so she was instrumental in making sure that the people that she wanted to see get elected to their school board got elected, because one of the people that was running was at the January 6th debacle. So they're like, no, she doesn't belong here. Let's not do that. So that was kind of her introduction to this idea of grassroots organizing. So we came out of our complacency when, after voting no, our Kansas legislators kept putting up bill after bill after bill, trying to destroy our rights. And that got us off our butts, let me tell you. So we converted what was a Facebook group talking specifically about defeating this constitutional amendment into something that would galvanize people from all sides of the political spectrum. I take credit for naming it Kansans for Rights, because our arch nemesis was Kansas for Life. So we're like, no. I'm all about life. I'm a high risk OB. I do that all day long, right? But we're Kansans for rights. And that is rights to read the books we want to read and rights to vote. And so, but I digress. One of the things we had to really do, because if you think I'm enthusiastic, you should see Ginny. I'm like the slow boat compared to her, right? And I knew about red, wine, and blue. I had come to one of these, like how to organize things. But at the time, the rally your squad really only applied, it seemed, to several specific states. And I was like, well, that's not Kansas. What am I supposed to do? So I kind of backpedaled a little bit. I put it on the back burner. But I mentioned that to Ginny because we'd gotten close during the vote no thing. And so then she ended up attending one of these troublemaker trainings. And that was just this summer. It was only a couple of months ago. But we changed from vote no to Northeast Kansas to Kansans for Rights. Our symbol is a purple bridge, bringing together the red and the blue because our goal is to turn Kansas purple. But our specific emphasis for me is reproductive rights and for Ginny is public education. So we got on an email about Trouble Nation and encouraged Ginny to attend one of these sessions, and she was hooked. And the rest is history. And now we have, in the Facebook group, we have 1,100 members.
Wow. Well, you've already answered the next question I had is, did you have experience organizing before you did this?
And briefly, yes.
Okay. And Renee, you did not, right?
No, I didn't even know organizing, like I never heard the word organizer. Well, I mean, like not in the context of politics. I had no experience in anything.
So you talked about the things that you have accomplished. You have morphed your group, Betsy. Renee, did yours do that as well?
Well, yes. So from 2017 to 2018, we were really focused on this HB 13, getting that passed. But of course, as more people came on and I made friends and suddenly I was co-running the group with somebody else, we started learning that what was happening with that bill was just a symptom of a much larger problem, which was the efforts by our state legislature to undermine public education. So we were like, well, we can't stop now. And it morphed into a larger group. And then we kind of got in with a coalition that was starting to deal with a lawsuit about our state not living up to its constitutional obligation to fund our schools. And so we were very active, I want to say, for 5 years. These last 2 years, I'll admit, it's kind of stepped back a little bit. And what's left of the group is really my friend Susan and I doing a podcast to keep people informed and offering speeches to PTAs and things who want to learn about school funding. But we're not an active group anymore.
Okay. All right. Well, I mean, but you're still out there and informing and educating.
Yes.
So that's still, in my book, that still counts.
Mm-hmm.
So what advice do you have for someone who's thinking about starting a group or who's just begun their group and they're thinking, okay, so now I have this group, now what?
One of the things that happened with us is that we really wanted our focus to be statewide. And to do that in Kansas, you got to be virtual. But we also recognize the fun and social element. And so we're a hybrid group. We at least once a month have an actual in-person fun gathering, and then at least twice a month have something virtual going on, like this, so that everyone can participate. And then Heather Cox Richardson came on Red, Wine, and Blue, and we exploded. We like tripled our membership in a week, as Missy and Renee will tell you, because they're having to vet all of these people. But then also a bunch of other local groups out in Western and Southern Kansas want to form their own in-person group. And we're like, huzzah, that's great. That's just what we want. So we're starting to see that grow. Our inaugural hybrid event was August 2nd. I just mentioned that. But what was really cool about that was that we had a national speaker who was in town because another like-minded group in the Kansas City area had brought this speaker in. And you guys are talking about Kyle Spencer. just happen to have her book right here. I'm about a third of the way through. The other author that's featured in the movie Bad Faith is Ann Nelson, and she's a treasure. And she came and she spoke on the Zoom part of it, and then she spoke to the people in person. No one would leave. Everyone just wanted to stay and talk. And that's the magnet. That's what pulls people in. And like you say, you make friends, you find this group of people you really trust, and that's how it grows. So figuring out whether you want to be virtual, whether you want to be in person, or whether you've got to do a hybrid, I think is an important point.
Okay, Renee?
I have 4 things, but I will make it very, very quick. What I tell people? Number 1, and most importantly, you can totally do this. It doesn't have to take up your life. If you have 5 minutes a day, great. If you have an hour a day, great. However you do it, you can do this. Just do something. Number 2 is we're here to help. We're going to hear about Trouble Nation in a little bit. Missy's going to go over the ways that Red, Wine, and Blue can help you. But even outside of Trouble Nation, we've got these trainings, and use that help, which kind of segues into my 3rd point, which Julie brought up earlier, is let people help you. I was so afraid to ask people to do things, but it turned out they were delighted to help. And like, I kid you not, I don't know how I got a co-runner of the group, but suddenly it was the 2 of us. And that was awesome. And I had a 4th one, and of course I forgot it because why would I remember? But the really important thing is you can totally do this.
And
All
all
right,
of my
well, ladies-
things were all the things that were already said in the what you should do. It was all about like stay connected, and figure out how you're going to communicate with each other, and take your lead from the members. What do you want to hear about, and what are your skills, and how can we work together?
Okay, well, thank you, ladies. I'm going to segue over here to Missy.
So I recognize a lot of the people who are on this call, and I love the fact that some of our brand new Trouble Nation leaders are on here trying to get as much information as you can. So, but for those of you, and perhaps this refresher will be great for you, and also for those of you who haven't yet joined our Trouble Nation program, I'm hoping that this, my little spiel will tell you exactly what that you want to be doing this. So if you could go to the next slide. I'll tell you a little bit about our Trouble Nation program. So Trouble Nation is Red, Wine, and Blue's national grassroots organizing program. So what we do is we help new local groups across the country get started, and existing groups grow and strengthen. And what we're not doing here is creating chapters. Every group that joins Trouble Nation stays independent of Red, Wine, and Blue. That means that you know best what you want to do in your community, and we can help provide the tools to do so. So you get all the resources and backup of Red, Wine, and Blue, but you're not sort of locked into a chapter model of like, we tell you what to do and when to do it and that sort of thing. You really chart your own course with the help of our tools. So we give you our content. We have lots of training and event opportunities, and we also connect you with leaders of other grassroots groups from across the country. So at a very high level, this slide shows the Trouble Nation program, at one glance. So I'm just going to go through these hexagons. On the far left, we help you with new member recruitment. So no matter where you are, we likely have members that have joined Red, Wine, and Blue's community who you don't know, who are in your community. And so we can do things like send an email to people in our database who are in your community, telling them about your group or an event that you have. What we can also do is we can create a Facebook post for a Facebook community that's linked to Red, Wine, and Blue in your community. And these methods work to help growing your group. Also, just by having a dot on the map, which you'll know what that means in a slide or two, that will help people find you. Second, at the top of the second section is our dedicated landing page. So every group who joins us gets their own dedicated website which has a bunch of features, including an events page where you can create your own events and share them with your members. Below that, as I mentioned before, that we provide connections with other leaders. So we do that in several different ways. One way is that we invite you all into everybody who's a Trouble Nation leader. You're welcomed into our Slack communications channel, which if you don't know what the Slack platform is, it's basically just a big communications channel like a Messenger or a Discord or something like that. So you're in a group with everybody else from around the country, but then we also have state-specific groups. So you can connect just with the leaders of people from your state, which is pretty cool. We also have monthly happy hours and several other things and events that we that you can be part of to connect with other people. Fourth, leadership and advocacy training. So you're here tonight. This is one of Red, Wine, and Blue's training programs that's national and available to everyone. We also, the Trouble Nation program has developed several training series that are geared specifically to leaders of grassroots groups to help you, better understand, how to organize and give you better tools to help you do the work that you want to do. And we've developed these, the modules that we've created are based on feedback that we hear from you all that you want to see. Fifth, exclusive content and opportunities. And we actually have a lot of things that fall under this that are only available to leaders of Trouble Nation groups. So one is a very robust resources webpage that has all sorts of content, event recordings, ways that we can help you on that resources page. We also have a lot of different event opportunities that you can tap into different speakers or event ideas to create events in your community. So that's a very rich resource. And then finally, underscoring it all is Red, Wine, and Blue support. We have a strong, dedicated team at Trouble Nation, and we open up our calendars for one-on-ones. So if you have questions, we can hold your hand and walk you through it and answer your questions. We're very responsive in that Slack platform, on email, and we also have many different opportunities to just drop in like event opportunities for, we call them office hours, where you can just drop in and ask your questions and then leave. So we do make it easy for you to reach us. Next slide. Okay, I mentioned before dots on the map. So you might be wondering, okay, this all sounds fantastic and I'm ready to start a group or I'm ready to join a group. And you might be wondering, is Trouble Nation near you? Well, chances are yes, because every pink dot on this map represents a grassroots group that has joined the Trouble Nation program. As of today, we have more than 440 groups across the country that are part of the Trouble Nation program. We reach every state except for 2, and we actually have interest from at least one of those last 2, and so we are looking to make that 50 as soon as possible. We're also thrilled that we've expanded beyond the 48 contiguous states. We have a group in Alaska and we have a group in Hawaii, and that's very exciting. So if you're looking to find out if there is a group near you, I'm sure it's being dropped in the chat, but these QR codes that you're seeing at the bottom of every slide I show, that will take you right to our Trouble Nation site. Also, the web address that we're sharing here, it's like from the Red, Wine, and Blue website. If you go to Red, Wine, and Blue, and then you pick the top bar that says take action and you scroll to Trouble Nation, you can put in your city, state, or your zip code to find out if there are groups near you. And if there are not groups near you, you are very welcome, and we'd love it if you could start your own group, and we will help you. Like the tools, everything that Julie shared in the beginning, everything that you heard from Renee and Betsy, is that we can help you do this. This is definitely something that you can do. And also, if you do see a group in your community, but it doesn't really fit exactly what you want to do and you want to start your own, that is absolutely welcome. That happens in a lot of places. And what's nice is that groups are doing a little bit different things, but then we can connect you all together. So you can, maybe combine for some things and then do things separately at other times. All right, next slide, please. Okay, so I mentioned before, one of the key resources that we offer for Trouble Nation is our resources page. So we really like to highlight that here. We have, as I mentioned before, content, event recordings, and tools that you have like all in one place. So once you do join, I highly recommend bookmarking it so that you can come back to this often. And then there is a guide if you're all beginning, if there is one place that I could recommend that you start, it's by downloading the Troublemaker's Guide to Starting and Growing a Grassroots Group. It is a digital booklet that gives you all sorts of ideas for how to get started. And you're not going to take every single idea, but I would wager that you will take several of these ideas, and it will get your juices flowing so that you can it'll just give you ideas for getting started. So I definitely highly recommend taking a look at this as one of your first steps. Next slide, please. I think we're almost done. Okay, so you might be wondering, am I appropriate to join Trouble Nation? Is it for me? So if you're on this call, the answer is probably yes. And mainly, we're looking for people, who love the mission of Red, Wine, and Blue, who are looking to organize more in their local communities. So if you are a member of a very established grassroots group of your own, and you're doing a lot of things, you might be like the group that Julie shared in her community. I already have 800 members. There are tools for you on the Trouble Nation program. So we want you. If you're sort of like, you kind of newly have a group and you want to grow, maybe a little more like the group that Betsy described, we want you. We also have so many people who have joined Trouble Nation as just an individual. It's like, you know what? This is the time for me to get engaged. I want to do it. It sounds like you can help me, and like, hold my hand and let's take this leap together, and we will do that with you. So I would say that well more than 50, 60%, probably much more of the groups who are on our platform started with one person or a very small group. So you are not alone, and this is absolutely something that we can help you. Next slide, please. All right, so we've shared the QR code a lot, but in case you didn't capture it, just wanted to share that we encourage you to join the program today. If you have any questions, you see our email address here, troublenation@redwine.blue. You can reach us. We are very responsive on the email. And our team is me, I'm Missy. Renee, you heard from today, is our Deputy Program Director. And we have Angela Levine and Shannon Gallagher are also on the team. Plus, we have 3 interns currently helping us. And so we're staffed up and ready to help you. So thank you. Are there any questions that I should answer that have shown up in the chat for me, or have they already been?
Yes, there was one just now that was asking the difference between Trouble Nation and starting a local group.
So you do not, you can start a group without Trouble Nation. You do not have to join the Trouble Nation to start a local group. However, if you're here tonight and you're liking what you've heard from Red, Wine, and Blue, in our view, there's really no downside to joining Trouble Nation. We can absolutely, the upside is tremendous. All the things that I showed you with those hexagons, that the ways that we can help you. You don't have to do this alone, bottom line. But if you choose that maybe Trouble Nation isn't for you, that's fine. But it's definitely not mandatory to follow Trouble Nation. But my guess is that you'll be happy that you joined.
Someone has friends across the nation, as many of us do. They wanted to know, would a national group against Project 2025 work in Trouble Nation?
So actually, we have several groups that have formed that are virtual only. There is one, for those of you who may have joined for the Heather Cox Richardson call, you heard from Ari Goodman, who runs a virtual only group with her daughter. She's in Ohio, her daughter's in Tennessee, and that's actually their goal. So they focus on mobilizing marginalized communities, and they have been, through the election, they will be educating on Project 2025. There's a couple other groups that have formed that are virtual only, that are really kind of, look, I'm in Arizona. I can think of a woman who started a group in Arizona. Her group won't be found as a dot on the map because she's chosen to make it private and just inviting people she knows and friends of friends. And she just wants to make sure that the people she knows personally are engaging. So there's a lot of different ways to do this. And Renee or Julie, or either Julie, please feel free to jump in if I didn't answer the question fully.
Well, I always like to kind of maybe repeat a question too, to make sure that everybody got it. So someone asked if there was a fee. Renee, you want to share your answer, please?
The short answer is no, there's not a fee. The platform is free, the resources are free, all of the work that we do. Now, we are having TroubleCon in September, and that will be a ticketed event, but that is not at all mandatory. It's our one-day summit for Trouble Nation leaders and potentially group members to come and learn about how to organize and stuff, but that's totally optional.
Okay. So what should the relationship be between a statewide group and maybe a smaller group? Because someone is in South Carolina as an example, and there's a statewide group, but they want to do one that's more centrally located to their area.
I would say that, let me just clarify, is the statewide group something that they want to follow exactly what the statewide group is doing and just bring that locally, or do they see a statewide group in South Carolina and wonder, should I not be creating this more locally? Is there
Maybe a little bit of
Guessing it
both.
might be sweep. I'm thinking it might be a sweep group.
Okay. So I guess the shorter answer is that you can absolutely, you're not duplicating. I mean, there are, like, every single community could actually support a local group, kind of like what Julie said earlier, Julie Womack, when she was describing kind of defining your geography and your parameters. And there are, like, actually, like, I live in Northeast Ohio, and within 5 miles of me, there are 3 different groups. And sometimes they will combine for an event. And actually that's happening later this month. But usually the communities have different needs. So the schools are different, the school boards are different, but also just like the demographics and just, friend groups and that sort of thing are all, very, very hyper local. So I think that the best work gets done the more hyper local a group is.
I was going to say, I think hyperlocal is the way to go, because like we organize in my city, there's a group in the city right next to me. There's a group in the city that's just north of me, and we combine our power. We help each other. So like the group just north of me just held their first Pride event, very conservative city. Like the city fought them on the Pride event. And not only did their group show up, all of my group showed up. Like we had booths there. They had 10,000 people. First Pride event. And so I'm just saying we combine our power and it actually makes us better statewide. So
How do people, oh, sorry.
No, just on that note, we also have these Slack channels, so you can get together with the other Trouble Nation leaders in your area. And if there is a statewide group and something comes up that's statewide, you can work in coalition. That's not competition. It's just getting together and supporting each other.
So I got a couple questions on how you find groups. One, are the Trouble Nation groups on the Red, Wine, and Blue platform? And then also somebody said that they're not seeing any existing groups in Michigan, and that can't be right.
What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna share my screen, and hopefully, do you see the Red, Wine, and Blue website?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yes.
so I just wanted to show you all, just in case you're not, just to make sure that you're searching correctly. So here, this is Red, Wine, and Blue's website, redwine.blue. The Trouble Nation program is one of these banners. So if you scrolled across, here you find it. You could search, click on Create or Find Your Local Group. If you're not finding the banner, you also go to Take Action, Trouble Nation. And let's say you want to find a group near you. I just clicked on it. So then this is where you can search for a group. So I am just going to, just because we said Detroit, or I'm sorry, because we said Michigan, I'm going to plug in Detroit, Michigan and see what we find. And okay, so I found several groups here. So there's a group right in Metro Detroit called Making Good Trouble in Metro Detroit. There's also LCPS Parents Rise, Rochester Parents Rise, Blue Macomb, Walled Lake SB Love Squad, and A2 Activists Go Blue, and there's several more. And then actually the radius extends a distance. So you're seeing a few groups in Ohio, but Be Accepting, I know, is in Michigan. And then this is the Red, Wine, and Blue Michigan homepage for that will take you to the Facebook group. So that's the way you search. And I will say that there are several groups in Michigan, but there's certainly not there may not be a group in the community that you're looking for. And so if there's not, that's where we would encourage, we could absolutely help you get started. And Michigan is one of the states where Red, Wine, and Blue has organizing staff on the ground. So we would be able to connect you with a Red, Wine, and Blue organizer to help you, in addition to our Trouble Nation team, to kind of help you through this process too. So you've got a lot of resources there.
Missy, can I I was going to
Oh,
suggest
yeah.
while you were screen sharing, I think one thing that can be confusing is making sure you were on the events tab and not I'm sorry, on the group tab and not the events tab, because the blue and the purple, I'm sorry, I cannot even speak. That is pink and blue. I sometimes even myself get on here and I'll hit the wrong thing and then I'm, not looking properly. So if someone was searching Michigan, they might have been on the events tab or something else instead of the group tab.
And that could happen. We've now made sure to set the default on the website to only show local groups. So if you don't touch these buttons, it'll just show groups. But if that is happening, you want to make sure that what you don't want to look at is grayed out. So if you clicked on events, they show up, and then you can kind of click it again to gray it out. So that could be what's happening. But if my sort of little tutorial here didn't help, feel free to hang on and we can help you tonight to search. So anything else that I want to share or no?
No, I think this question is for Julie, actually. You had mentioned something about, do you want your group to be private but shareable? And it was a setting on Facebook. And so someone asked, they had never done that before. Is private but shareable a setting, or what's the setting called, I guess? Question.
I actually dropped the Facebook guidance in there. I think it's probably better to read the description, but I believe you can have it be private but searchable. So like if someone knows the name of your group, they can it won't just pop up in people's feed. But like if someone says, hey, you should go join my local group called blah, 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 they can search for it and find it. I think that's the way that Facebook has it up now. My group's been around since 2016, so it's been a long time. So I haven't done this. But I did drop the Facebook guidance there. So you can definitely Google that and get the instructions.
And then in creating a Facebook group, should it be public or private?
Oh, that's up to you. I'll tell you what we did, and you can decide how you want to do. For my local group, we live in a red area, and there's a lot of people who don't want to be known that this was also back in 2016. They did not want to be known that they were on the more progressive side of things. And so we kept our group secret and private, and you couldn't find, and you had to be specifically invited. But then as we started organizing, we were like, being secret is not helpful. Like, we need to be out there. Our motto for our local Dem Club is loud and proud. So we then created a more public group, which was our Dem Club, and we made that a public facing page that anybody could find. So that's how we did it, was like the Facebook group was private so people could kind of feel more comfortable. I think it's now I was gonna say not really a secret anymore. I think everybody knows about our private Facebook group, but we don't let people in. So they try to get in and we don't let them. We do screen people. So we try to protect privacy.
I'll just say, like, that's exactly, I started a group in early 2017. Same time we started out, like, as hidden as we could possibly be. We were secret. Nobody could search for us. They had to be invited for a link, which sometimes didn't even work because we were so locked down. And we have, we're all definitely very much public about the way we feel now. And we have opened up those settings, and it's actually been wonderful because we sort of just recently opened up those settings, and we have had an influx of members, and we've just had to be really careful about vetting and the questions that we ask and that sort of thing, and it's worked out really well.
Okay, well, that was all. I'm so sorry, but Renee.
No, we're up on time, so I just want to add, we did it the opposite way, and it was totally wrong. So we were a private group, but we didn't vet anybody. We just let anybody in because it was statewide, and invite your friends and all that stuff. And long about the third time, a bunch of people who didn't agree with what we were doing decided to raid the group and join as a bunch and post obnoxious posts. I was like, oh, maybe we should screen. So be aware.
Mm-hmm. I know it's time. Julie, could I just share really quickly, if for those of you who are interested and think, okay, I want to start a group, I just want to show you exactly how. So you're at redone.blue trust trouble nation. I showed you this. You just click this button, create a local group, and it will take you to a form that asks you a few questions, and then you can apply. The main question that I would recommend that you think about before you press submit is your group's name. And so we have some naming guidance here, and we can't accept a group without a name. And so just pay attention to the naming for your group before you press send.
The only question that we have our normal, you agree to the rules, do you live in our city? We also have the question I said about like, you want to provide your email and phone number. What we do to vet people is, I don't care what the question is, because they're going to lie if they want to lie. That doesn't really mean anything. What we do, my group personally, if you have voted Republican in the, like with the history of that, we don't let you in. We only want independents and progressive leaning people. So what we do is when someone tries to join is I try to look at their Facebook profile and kind of look at their page to see what they're posting. And we also check voter history. So we're able to go in and see if in Ohio you vote in primaries, and that's how you become registered as a party. So we actually screen people by that as well. And then if worse comes to worse, we can't find anything, there's no history, I will reach out to the person who invited them. And then I just err on the side of letting them in. You know what I mean? Like if there's nothing that's a big red flag, I'd rather grow the group. And I think 90% of the time, most people are in a good place with that. And you can always kick them out.